As I'm getting higher, I'm starting to hear all the sirens from all across London just descending upon me. Helicopters, and I'm looking down, I'm seeing all the police at the bottom. People in my line of work die. They're so used to what they're doing, and the fear is no longer present. I can never be complacent. That's a really important principle I have to stay alive. My name is George King, but you might know me better as the guy who climbed the Shard. Since climbing the Shard, I've base jumped off Europe's tallest roller coaster. I've climbed Tower Agba in Barcelona, climbed Stratosphere Tower in London, Lotte Tower in South Korea, and many more. You can't just turn up and do what I do. It requires years of experience and training, combining both mental preparation and physical preparation. I climb a crane for 2 to 3 hours with a weighted vest on. And that way I'm not only building endurance on a physical level, I'm also building that mental exposure. You can be as strong as you like, but there's a thing which happens when you're halfway up the building where panic can set in. And if you're mentally not prepared for that, it will cripple you. I think people get this misconception about me that I'm fearless. It's really not the case. I fear a lot. It's a very useful tool to tap into. Ever since I was being conscious, I've been climbing things. Like I had an attraction to heights. I couldn't quite understand why other people in my classroom weren't as curious about emotions like fear. Like I'd climb up a really tall tree. I'd get to the top and I'd look down, I'd be scared, and I'd sort of dare myself to jump out the tree. Even though I was totally alone and no one was pressuring me to do it, I was just curious about what was holding me back, what those butterflies were. I wanted to control it, I wanted to explore that.
George is very different for sure. He always set himself pretty massive goals at quite a young age. Like, for instance, when he was 16, he was like, I'm going to do an ultra marathon.
I'd have hundreds of different dreams on a list, and they'd range from being the youngest to swim the Channel, youngest to climb Everest. I was obsessed with this idea of doing something big. And when I was 13, I was on a school art trip, and for the first time out of the coach window, I saw the Shard. And I found it very striking. It was alone from all the other buildings in London. It was futuristic. And intuitively, I wrote it down on my big list, climb the Shard. I was a personal trainer in London at the time. I remember a client didn't turn up for a session. And in that 2-hour window, I decided to go and have a look at the Shard. I went back home, pulled out my laptop, and I realized if I were to get to that point and up to there and to there, then I could get on the Shard, and so therefore it could be possible. And then that started a whole 8-month period of borderline psychotic obsession. I had to do it. The idea of not doing it was just impossible. It was important for me to keep my family from knowing about me aiming to climb the Shard because I would like to emotionally protect them.
So I always had a feeling that he was like up to something, or that there was something going on.
I'd keep track of my lies to my family so that they wouldn't expect it, and I'd hide things under my bed, and essentially I was sort of leading a double life. I'd wear different disguises to avoid pattern recognition. So some days I'd wear a suit and I'd sort of pose myself as an office worker, and I'd have a conversation with the concierge and I'd just get a feel for their response rate. Or other times I'd wear sports kit and I'd run up to a pillar of the Shard and I'd stretch on it. I'd measure that the pillar would go from my wrist to the elbow, and then I'd run back home, and then I'd get a tape measure and I'd measure from my wrist to the elbow, and then I'd get a measurement. And that would be my piece of information from the recce. And I do that over 100 times, trying to get one piece of information each and every time. And eventually I got all the information I needed, and I was ready to do it. I must have got 2.5 hours sleep, not much at all. I woke up and around 3:30 a.m. and then as the sun's coming up, I exited the hotel I walk across the road and I enter London Bridge station. All the senses are heightened. I hear a walkie-talkie crackle in the distance, and I go up the stairway and I run across the railway, and I climb onto London Bridge station. I get a suction cup onto another level, and then I make my way to the Shard. I started climbing. Halfway up, I look into the window and I see a sort of cleaner or maintenance worker, and he smiles at me and he waves at me, and I wave back and continue climbing. And as I'm getting higher, I'm starting to hear all the sirens from all across London just descending upon me. Helicopters, and I'm looking down, I'm seeing all the police at the bottom. And I get to a point where I'm above all the buildings in London, and I really feel as though I have achieved my dream. And I continue climbing, but where I was, it was becoming quite slippery. And I reached just below the tip. I went inside the buildings, an open terrace at the top of the Shard. Upon getting inside, I'm met by the police. After 30 minutes, I was let go. No phone, no money, and it was rush hour in London Bridge. I think, well, actually, my brother Toby is going to be going to work in the City of London. So I decide to go and wait in the midpoint of London Bridge.
George is standing there literally in like shorts, like a white shirt, like climbing shoes, and probably had like a little chalk pouch and things. And I'm like, you just climbed the Shard. I was like, you need to like make sure you go home, see your mum and everything. And then I went to work that day, and then by that point it was sort of going viral, and I remember people in the office literally being like, oh, did you hear about the guy who's just climbed the Shard? I was like, yeah, that's my brother. Yeah.
3 months I was a free man, but in the background there was this court case being built against me. And then on the 28th of October, I go to the Royal Courts of Justice. As soon as I entered the courtroom, I felt the weight of the law. It was 6 months imprisonment. The prison officers said to me almost immediately that this prison is a really tough nick. Be careful in here, it's a jungle. I was like, okay, yeah, right, let's keep my wits about me. During the time I was in prison, I mean, there's a lot of time to think because you're locked in a cell pretty much all day. So there I am, I got a pen and a paper, and I'm just plotting down what I need to do next. Base jumping, big letters on the piece of paper, stick it on the wall. And I left prison, I think it was around the 12th of January, and then it was back to work. I'd done many other stunts, jumps, climbs. I wanted the next Shard, another big one.
I remember like dropping off at the bus station when he was about to go to the airport, and I was literally like, that's probably the first time I felt like, what if he doesn't come back?
My idea was to climb to the top of the building, jump off, deploy the parachute, fly to a tennis court, land, put on a different set of clothes, get in a taxi, go to the airport. That was my plan, and it didn't go to plan. And I walk towards Lotte Tower, and I'm feeling this humidity in the air, and it's quite worrying. Once the sun's up, I go in for the attack and I start climbing. Within 5 minutes, I am just pouring with sweat. After 2.5, 3 hours, I'm spotted by someone who is sleeping in their bed in the residential unit of the building. The police all start congregating from all different areas of the city, and I got trapped halfway up the building at the 72nd floor, which is 300 meters high. They put this cradle machine, which is usually used to wash the windows, and they put it directly in the view of me climbing. And as I'm getting close to it, I realized that I'm in a precarious position where I couldn't climb around it. So I try and get on top of it, and in that moment, the security grabbed me, and I just kind of submitted to defeat. I gave my absolute best effort, but it just was not enough.
Three, two, 1.
What scares me most in life is regret. I fear this idea of being on my deathbed and looking back on my life and being like, I regretted not doing this. I don't want it to be just limited to trying to do the tallest building or the hardest building. It's trying to make it creative and new and exciting in that form. I mean, I have a big list of all these different projects. I don't know when they will happen, but yeah, there is something in the pipeline, yeah.